Welcome to another episode of It's Server Time. It's been too long. It's been a month and 14 days since the last episode. And we're back. We are back to talk about the RMR. Turns out it's kind of actually hard to do a podcast regularly when you're working crazy hours and flying constantly. So I get why a lot of talent in this space don't do it anymore. But that has not stopped us today because we have a lot to talk about. The RMRs are underway and there's a lot to celebrate. I'm wearing a jersey of a team that is probably going to celebrate tonight. I know that there is some sort of, there's some contention with talent that are a little too biased, James Banks and NaVi, but there is, I'll say this. I was just given this jersey in the hallway by Crimbo, and honestly, I'm just gonna put it on because that's just such a kind gesture. So, as always, though, we have Mix, we have Note, we have Pernogo, and yeah, guys. I mean, honestly, it's been a while, but I think there's been a lot to break down. But we're gonna keep this one relatively short. I think we can have nice one,
Don't
Note.
worry, I got this too.
Yeah, NA lives on. You know what? What's funny is, and now I can just BM. Now I can be shameless about this. Now I can be an asshole. My team made it to the Legends stage. Where did Bad News Bears?
Yeah, where did Bad News Bears finish? No.
Hey, they're in Europe for 6 weeks. It'll be good for them. That's all I'm saying.
Not bad.
So it'll be good for them, but losing to ZQK and Showtime in 2022, that was a bit rough.
In 2022,
that is true.
Yeah, it's rough. But yeah, Pernogo, how you been doing?
Pretty great. Yeah, it's been fun watching Counter-Strike. We got obviously plenty of events back to back at this point. ESL running most of the circuit, but PGL coming out. Innovative new HUD for the first little bit. Not to, obviously you're working the event. I can't hammer in as much as I would.
You can
like.
say whatever you want. I just can't.
All right, so basically PGL went from deaf audio guy to blind graphics guy with this atrociously ridiculous HUD that had way too little contrast between like dead player and a live player. Now, just like the last major, they've actually corrected some things after the fact. Props to them. They trialed it in the least relevant region, Asia. No, obviously I'm talking about North America. They trialed it in a ridiculous way where they like corrected a lot of issues for the European RMRs, but they totally like scuffed it for NA initially. I thought that was pretty funny. So
I mean, this is kind of what we were hoping for, though. Like we even talked about this when they did the HUD last year for the major. This is the sort of environment they should be trialing stuff like this trying to refine it before the actual major.
Well, yeah, honestly, and they didn't even get a chance to in the last time because obviously that was the era where ESL had taken over all of the RMRs, right? And now PGL seems to have more of a direct hand in running them, so props to them for that, and at least they'll have the issues rectified for the major. So, but in all seriousness, it has been really nice to see some of the European stuff today and yesterday, and even the ends of the other RMRs. I don't know if anybody here ended up catching like the Asia stuff or whatever, but some of that stuff was pretty hype, and it's always nice to see celebrations at the end of it, right? When you get a team that like obviously 9Z over in NA or IHC from Mongolia predominantly, like those teams, the celebrations at the end are pretty hype because you're like, these guys haven't even thought about a major besides in their dreams potentially, and now they're actually going. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. How about we just run it all the way back to the Americas RMR? I feel like there's been a lot that's gone on since our last podcast, but like let's just keep it slightly more current. So for the Americas RMR, we had some of the clear favorites making it through. I would say that for a lot of, I think the most likely favorites were going to be Liquid and they were going to be Furia. I don't think there's much to say about that. Like they did the best at Pro League overall. And then I think beneath them, like a tier beneath them, was going to be Complexity. And then Complexity did well. I mean, I don't think the Complexity only losing to Furia, that's not a bad result whatsoever. Not dropping a map to anybody else they even faced. I don't even think they looked particularly I don't even remember the teams looking that competitive against Complexity either.
I don't think anyone else.
No, they played pretty well.
Yeah. So what do you guys think of Complexity?
Looked better at this event, but still struggled against Furia. They weren't particularly close on that, and it seems like against those teams they're still a bit in their own heads, and they lose a lot of like their confidence drop off. I'm like playing like the other teams they're facing, the playing teams like Furia is like really big still. But yeah, other than that, it was nice to just see them pick up like clean wins in the event. They look pretty solid on those maps. Grimmon Jr. seems more comfortable against those teams, and obviously you can say that like, yeah, it's against weaker teams, but still, it's still good to see them like, you know, actually able to achieve that in some sort of zone against some of these teams that have looked particularly dangerous. So yeah, it was nice to see some clean play for them.
Yeah, I think for me they kind of got over, at least against some of the weaker teams, they got over the struggle of basically needing to come back from a massive deficit and then just losing narrowly. Like that's how I see them tend to lose against a lot of the bigger teams. They'll go down like 7-0, they'll come back, it'll be like 14-14, and then they'll lose to like D-goals or something, and it'll or like 13-14. It's almost always been like that for the matches that I've watched. So yeah, I think they performed basically around where I'd expect coming into this event for them.
I just
they lost to Furia and won.
Can they just, for the love of God, just stop picking Ancient? Like, please.
I know.
I'm begging them. Please stop. Please stop picking Ancient. Pick anything else. Literally anything else.
I actually put a tweet out after their run here because they've picked Ancient, I think 7 times, or they've played Ancient 8 times. They've lost it 7 times, and out of that, I think like 5 or 6 of those were their first pick.
Yeah,
and it's absurd. Like I get it. Sometimes they're close against like NaVi or Gambit or whoever they've played, but it's just at some point you gotta find a different home map if that one's not working for you. And
it's like,
right now it's not working for them.
Yeah, I know what their mindset is when they do that. It's because like. Yes. They're like trying to target like another team's weak map, and obviously there's still a lot of teams that don't particularly play Ancient a lot. They don't necessarily have like amazing results on Ancient, but they still play it here and there. And so they're like, oh, you know, this map's weak for them. Like we feel good on this map. Like they probably do good on it in scrims or something. And then they go into these matches and they just lose every time. And it's like, I understand the mindset they're playing with, but eventually you just gotta understand that like even if they're better on like Inferno or Dust 2 or whatever, like you're still just gonna have like so much more of a chance to actually win these maps if you're not playing Ancient every single time. Sometimes it's just not your map.
I would have understood the pick a little more if they went to Europe and like had a week practicing against European teams who play Ancient, or like even 2 weeks, but they literally flew out like 2 days before or something. So actually, wait, no, they were at EPL. What am I talking about? They've been there. It's EPL that they were picking Ancient at, where I was like, okay, why are they picking Ancient here? Not for the RMR, but they were doing it at EPL too, and I was like, what is this? Like, you literally flew out the day before your group started, and then you're picking Ancient against some of the best teams in your group. Playing against NA teams who are definitely not abusing you the same way that these teams will. So
do you guys think that the whole JT picking Ancient thing or whatever is kind of a symptom of, I mean, I'm not, obviously the whole team is picking Ancient, but what I mean by singling out JT is that it does feel like there's a bias towards a tactical play style where they're trying to be the better team in a holistic sense and not just like playing to their own strengths. And, you know, over in other esports, you've seen this kind of thinking before where there's like a global meta and we got to play to it. But there's also something to be said for playing to what you individually can do and playing for your own comfort a little bit more than trying to, you know, toss the opponent off balance. Do you guys think there's something to that criticism of JT?
With Johnny, it's more that like specifically, like with JT and TC, like this duo, and like from my experience doing vetoes with them, is that I don't think they necessarily view like their own maps in terms of strength that way. They'll just be like, oh yeah, we're good on this map, and then they don't. A lot of times they don't necessarily have like that like clear ranking for themselves in terms of like, yeah, like we're much stronger on this map than this map, and typically they just be like, okay, well this team like doesn't play this map a lot, they're not very strong on it, so let's just pick it. And they tend to value that more than they do vetoing to their own strengths. And so sometimes I think sometimes it's all right, but I feel like sometimes they overdo it a lot, particularly when they get into like these modes where like they would do Ancient. I'm pretty sure like a couple of years ago we were probably picking Vertigo way too much if I went and looked back when that map was like a bit more new. But yeah, like especially like these newer maps, I think they can kind of get themselves into this little cycle where they just keep picking it because, you know, other teams aren't super strong on it and they think it's like a good map for them eventually. And like they'll go and review and be like, well, the map pick isn't why we lost, but like obviously like it's not why you lost, but it can be one of the reasons, and you still would have a better chance to win if you're picking something else, right? Like it's just playing percentages for me. But yeah, I do think they kind of get tunnel visioned, if that makes sense.
I think just going back to the RMR here, the teams who are in the entire event, I think performed basically where I'd expect. 9Z obviously like a bit of a surprise in terms of after losing Tri, they're coming in and actually qualifying. But outside of that, I think this is sort of where I would put most of the teams, with the exception of maybe like EG and 00 Nation. Yeah. I would have put 00 Nation maybe as like a 2-3 team instead of a 1-3 team. I didn't think they'd qualify. But EG obviously is like easily the biggest disappointment out of the whole pool of teams. But outside of that, the teams who qualified are around where I would say. MIB are also a surprise, but like in terms of overall ranking, that's where I would have put them.
It's bad for UG that they didn't qualify, but I wasn't particularly surprised. If you asked me, I probably would have favored 0-0 Nation to make it over EG.
I think I'm surprised mostly by Imperial advancing, and in that sense, it feels like EG probably would have made it over Imperial. Like, if anybody was going to have pick'ems for the RMR, even though EG is not instilling confidence in anybody, like, I'd understand if you left it out, like what Mick said, but I would still have put them in there. So, yeah, that's a bit weird to me that Fallen did the run back.
I would have had EG in making it just based surely on the experience that these players have and in higher pressure situations that they would have done well, which is how I think Imperial actually succeeded. Like when they beat Party Astronauts in that 2-1 game, like, dude, it was all just the fucked up headspace that Party Astronauts were in after they got a lead in that series. It's just the swings, the peaks, the way that Party Astronauts were trying to close some of the rounds. It just felt like they wanted to get that second. It's kind of like this. Basically, I'll just give an example round. So basically, I think one of the first 6 rounds on Dust 2, John G is at Goose. There's a player at Ramp on Dust 2, and everybody from Imperial is coming up with Deagles. They have no nades. They don't have anything to work with. And instead of just playing the Goose Ramp crossfire, John G just wide swings from Goose and literally just peeks into 5 people and dies without getting a kill. And it was just like, why are you trying to win the round in 1 second? Just play the game that you guys have established, because everything I saw before from Party Astronauts was just better from in that regard. Even what I saw from them even at Pro League was a little bit better. They aren't that sloppy, but then when the pressure was on, they got really sloppy. So I was kind of disappointed.
They're probably playing the end of the round way too quickly.
Yeah,
They see one little opening. And instead of being patient, Johnny's like, oh, if I just swing here and kill 2 of them, we win the round, right?
Yeah.
And so they kind of it's easy to lose sight of that. Yeah. And I guess speaking on Imperial, I was just gonna say that more than anyone, fucking Fur just been playing out of his mind, even just in general the past month or 2, which really surprised me because on 0-0 Nation he looked so bad.
Oh yeah,
he was awful on that team. So to see Fur even against some of the worst teams,
keep in mind who they played though.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I know they're playing weaker teams, but I still think he's performing better overall than I would have expected. Even the EU matches they were playing in EU before this event against MIBR, he was decent, but obviously he's not playing superstar level. But I am surprised by how First played overall still.
Yeah,
I mean it's just funny that they might not even be the oldest team at the major at this point of SAW qualify.
That is true.
I think Forza is going to win that tomorrow. Just putting it on record. Just putting on record. I think Forza are a little better. But yeah. I mean, dude, it seems like it's a miracle, because I also saw their results in South America weren't were they were okay, right? They weren't.
The results before this tournament in general weren't that great.
They lost to
They were
Kaze.
kind of middling.
They lost to Kaze in the grand final of the RMR in South America. I mean, either way, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say they weren't amazing, but they also weren't bad. They had some solid wins over Mao's NXT and Offset. And I know that those are not great teams, but
they're
if
European
you asked me
teams,
before they formed, if they went to Europe and played Mao's NXT, I probably would have said Mao's NXT would win pretty easily. So
I agree with you. Yeah. I guess they're actually they're probably overperforming a little bit right now, or they're actually just playing well, better than I think most people would have judged the roster to be. Okay, let's move on to another team in the Americas. How did you guys watch much of MIBR? Because I thought that was I didn't think that was hugely a shocker that they made it, but the fact that they were 3-0 was
that was impressive. A big surprise. I didn't actually catch any of their games because in a blink you'll miss it, and I totally wrote them off every time. I was like, oh, they'll lose to that team. Oh, they'll lose to that. Oh wait, what? They won? Checking HLTV results. So I have nothing really to say besides impressive. And I did see the interview where I can't remember the player, unfortunately, but one of the players on MIBR said that it's impossible to put to words how much it means to them, specifically to qualify over Imperial. It's like a changing of the guard. That resonated with me just on a quote level. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I'm happy for him, but I didn't see any other games, so I can't tell you.
Yeah, I think one thing that's pretty cool about him is that this is kind of a symptom of the fact that they've had so much more time in Europe than anybody else that's here. Actually, I think other than Liquid and Furia, these guys have played in the Blast Blast groups and Blast Showdown for the last couple seasons now. They played in the spring and they played in the previous fall, and I'm sure they're practicing when they're in Europe on top of that. And actually, okay, this is a little spoiler. I have a podcast coming out soon with Daps where we're going to talk about some NA stuff, and literally, like, we were talking about how this just makes so much sense. When you just get this much time in Europe, you're just going to be better than North American competition. It's why MIBR on top of that were able to win ESL Challenger League pretty handily. I don't think they had too much trouble in that. So I mean, yeah. So I mean, it's cool to see that when you actually invest resources into a team that, like, really on paper has no reason to be decent, but just put them in Europe for a while, like throw them into the deep end, they can actually do pretty well.
Woody.
Woody. It's pronounced Woody. Typed with 7. Yeah.
How does he get an I from a 7? That's talent.
I don't know. You know, that's one of those.
I
think
it's a Y from the 7.
Yeah.
It could be. I guess. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I think the fact that they also don't have like a rotating 12-man roster anymore or whatever the fuck they had last year. It's like they built an army last year.
Yeah.
And then
to rival that of Astralis.
They just had players who got like COVID or had visa issues and stuff, so they couldn't have their whole roster there half the time anyway. So it's nice seeing them like able to stabilize here as well.
The moment you open CSGO from a computer in Brazil, you just automatically add it to the roster.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I know. Okay, I have a question about more of the North American centric talent, like the, Canada and America. I'm curious as to your guys' thoughts on this, because I know this is something that's been floated a few times now, is the idea that maybe North America's representation would be better served if you just kind of shuffled the teams that we already have into something that's more just like 2 teams from the top 3 or something like that. First of all, do you guys agree with this take? And second of all, like, do you guys think it's even likely? Because obviously EG seems ripe for the taking after the fact that they failed to qualify, but is it contingent on actual, like, how well the North American representatives perform at this major, or do you think that there's like a shuffle coming no matter what? Like, what do you guys takes broadly on this? Because this is just a question or a statement I keep hearing about.
The only player I would want from EG today to be on another team is Automatic. I don't actually have much to like about what I'm seeing from anybody else on the roster. I like everybody else's performances have been pretty up and down for me. But if, let's say, it's Automatic for Shocks, I could see that working.
Okay.
That's like one move. But I don't even. I think like Scrawny and Launders have posed this thing on a cast before that's just like, or even on the other podcasts I've done with him, like that like there's basically 3 North American premier teams right now, elite, like supposed to be elite teams, but you should just make 2 teams out of them. But like, I don't even really know who I'd pick out of EG to be anywhere else other than Automatic. So I guess there's like a very small upgrade there, but like, it's not like it's a drastic change for me.
But I mean, regardless of that, like they've all missed the boat as it is. Like, there's no way any of these teams are making changes for the foreseeable future. I mean, like within each other, like they might make changes, like trying to bring players up or something, but they're definitely not. Like, Complexity isn't going to EG. There aren't players from there that just wouldn't make sense right now. So I think in general, like, that maybe could have been a thing at the start of the shuffle period, but at this point, you've either missed the boat or you would have to pay some insane buyout and have to have the players wanting to come on board, and that's just not going to happen right now.
Liquid and Complexity, I just obviously can't see making any changes. I want to be a part of anything like that at the moment. EG, I could definitely see like dropping a couple people and looking to EU or looking to younger talents in NA.
Yeah, exactly.
Just people, they probably wouldn't like immediately sign someone from NA, but I could see them like, dropping a couple of people, trial a couple of people, kind of see what's out there.
Yeah, I mean, I almost like with the Complexity roster, I have, in a way, I want them to have the most room to grow right now.
Yeah.
And I kind of just imagine with the like the probable salaries and the probable income from having the team, like, because you have partnerships with ESL and Blast, like, I actually think that the team might be self-sustaining in that the amount of money you make from media rights from ESL and Blast being in partnership with them is probably funding the salaries of everybody on Complexity, if not even making a profit for Complexity. So there is almost in no way, shape, or form a reason that you should actually change this out, especially given the fact that you also just made stickers with this roster. Like, don't touch this roster for the next year. Like, unless someone just falls off a cliff. Someone has to like literally start putting up 0.8 ratings every tournament for like 3 months straight.
Yeah, honestly, the soonest like this team, I could see this team like even trying a roster change would be at the end of the year. Like during like another like shuffle period or something just like that. I just can't see them like making a quick move to like try to upgrade someone. Because there's like not really any clear upgrades in general. I mean, just because like everyone's so new. Like it's like a lot of young talent. I'm pretty sure they all get along pretty well together. I mean, yeah, it's just there's no reason for Complexity to change anything. And then changing anything right now would just lead you into oblivion of just making constant changes for like the next year or so, most likely. So
I just feel like
go for it.
I was just gonna say if EG isn't targeting like Wonderful or someone as a replacement for Cirque, then I don't know. I think at this point they need to start looking internationally for a different upper, or trying to at least like try and figure out people to start replacing these players, because not making the major for these players is just I don't think that's acceptable, and there's no way that they can try and write out this roster at this point, because I don't know what sort of potential they see in them anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you were gonna like change out 2 people or something from EG, right? Because I can't see them like already just changing out 3 people. So like the most I could see them doing right now would be removing Cirque, and then removing either Rush or Breeze. Obviously I think Stu and Audi are still pretty much untouchable at the moment. So I guess my question would be, who would you remove first out of like Breeze and Rush, and who would you? Yeah, because for me, I feel like the logical choice would be Rush, but I still kind of feel like Breeze has just been like so middling and average, and like he hasn't gotten at all better in like in this environment, that I'd rather him just do something else.
If he's meant to get all the resources as a star player, like one of your star riflers, he's definitely not delivering on that premise, right? So it definitely feels like Rush is going to be the everyman. I still have it like, I don't know. It's hard to judge any of these players. On the one hand, right, you look at this team setup and you look the way that it's working and it's not working. And you're like, well, is this really a fair assessment of any of these players? Like the stats aren't going to bear out. They're not going to look good because they're just getting shattered. And it's probably a systemic issue. That's my initial reaction. But then I think, well, it's been like this for a long time, especially for somebody like Cirque. And I guess in addition, somebody like Breeze, who was here before the whole reshuffle, right? So I'm leaning more towards the like change more, because this thing is really messed up. But I don't know. Like you said, you can't really touch Stewie, and he might be one of the like a new source of issues, you know. So I don't know. I would reserve this for whoever is running the management, but the whole org looks kind of clown shoes right now, especially with the whole EPL finishing, like bottoming out again for what is it, the 5th time in a row or 4th or something like that. So
it's enough that they can renew or review their standing in the league, you know,
which probably won't happen, but still, that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna ditch them or anything, because unless there's like a bidder that's actually out there that wants to take that slot. But I would say this: if I actually were to do anything with the roster, I would probably get rid of Cirque. And well, actually, you know what? I think one change that could just work is you just get Daps for Rush, actually, because I think Daps is actually probably like the best person to work with Cirque and Breeze to get them back to wherever they need to be.
Okay.
And actually I'll say this, like Daps feels like some people are gonna be like, oh, he's washed, or like he doesn't play, like whatever. He actually put up pretty solid stats in Premier this season, in Challenger League, ECL. I'm just gonna say Premier for the rest of my life. Like, I'm sorry, that's just what it is. He put up solid stats in Premier for the most recent season, and I actually think that where Stewie and Automatic would thrive the most is being secondary callers to Daps. Like, let someone else just do the IGLing role, and then let Stewie make the sick mid rounds that he does. Let Automatic help out with the mid rounds too, and then just like build game plans around getting Breeze and Cirque activated and getting them back into a confident form that they can thrive in. Because like, you see these glimpses of Breeze being good, it's just like round to round, you just don't see him in the situations where he even has a chance. Like, so sometimes when he's on CT side and he doesn't get kills, like it is kind of like, okay, you should have probably got some more kills there actually. But like on T side, I don't know how they're supposed to have impact when they're playing 4v5 because Stewie dies so fast every round.
Do you think if they cut Breeze, do you think Breeze would just stay in CS, or do you think he'd go to Valorant?
I'm like 90% sure he'd go to Valorant, to be honest.
Because that's the thing. Like it's similar. I think Thorin said the same thing on a podcast. It might have been Snake and Banter or something, but essentially it's similar to like Liquid cutting Twists back in the day. Is that if you not necessarily like the same skill level at the time, but in general, like if you cut him, what if he comes back and joins a different team and starts shitting on you, right? Like you're always making that, you're kind of towing that line when you're thinking about cutting a player like that. But if he's just gonna go to Valorant, then I mean, like,
there's not as much risk.
Yeah, probably
it's not as much risk, you know.
Because he's not gonna go to Complexity or Liquid at the moment. Like neither team is gonna be in a rush to drop anyone for how Breeze has been playing the last like 6 months. And then does Breeze really want to go to EU? I doubt it. So in that case, Breeze is someone that's known to have been playing like a lot of Valorant since it came out and playing like, you know, pro 10-mans with other Valorant pros. So I feel like it's just like overwhelmingly likely that he would just end up on a Valorant team.
I mean, that kind of pisses me off though, because you're like 1 foot out the door on a like top 3 NA team. Like, just leave and give someone else a chance at that point. That's actually like.
Well, I'll say I don't know how much he's actually played in the recent months. But like when he first like came out the first year or so, he definitely did play quite a bit of it. Which I mean, I don't really hate. At the time, they were still playing pretty decently, and I don't think Valorant is like a bad way to, you know, do something else while, you know, still practicing your aim a bit and something else, you know, just to get out of like the CS environment, something kind of like a bit new. But yeah,
you go and play the easy game so that you can blow off some steam, right? I think that's how it works.
But I mean, he also hasn't been grinding CS like he used to. I think Alex made this point on Snake and Banter, where like he used to grind ESEA pugs, and now he definitely has not been like grinding CS as he was.
He barely plays pugs anymore. He barely plays pugs.
I feel like that's how some players can do it with just DM or just retake servers or aim bots or whatever. I know for a fact Breeze's way to stay sharp was pugs, and now he's not playing them. So like, how does he expect to have the same abilities? Like, there's the truth is that you just can't. So yeah.
I need more of that Breeze with the 1 versus 3 on Inferno A site where he just flicks and just cuts heads. Come on, that was at the major. I don't remember which one. I think it was the last one before the last one.
I'd say like once like
the
come like the end of the year. I'd be more surprised if Breeze is still in CS than if he's in Valorant, just considering how this EG team is going.
Yeah, you might be right about that.
But we'll see what moves they make. It would be like I just don't know if I see Stu giving up IGL already, unless he already wants to. And then it'd also be kind of funny if Daps did replace Rush, because it's like Daps' original project didn't really work out because Rush went to EG, and then Daps fucking straight up just replaces him. It would be kind of funny, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Let's move on to another team then. I guess we covered actually most of the Americas here, unless you guys want to talk about any other teams that strike your guys' fancy.
I was just gonna say, like on 0-0 Nation, I was pretty surprised that they went out 1-3. Like they started off looking up pretty good. I kind of like how they look, and then I don't know. It's just like the rest. It still just didn't really click the rest of the tournament. They just didn't really look that impressive.
Yeah. So I had breakfast with Malbs actually, and I talked to him about like the team structure and how they're calling and stuff. Is that basically one thing that is taking them a while to get up to speed together? Is that basically like Try was in a very structured system, because like think of the fact that he played under Bit before this. Think of the fact that Malbs played on like Team 1 with, I don't even know who the IGL was. I forgot. Pesadello? No. Who's it? Shit. I mean, I don't know.
What? Team 1?
Maluk. Maluk. Okay, Maluk. So Maluk, like very default heavy strategies where everybody's just like kind of trying to find frags everywhere at once. And then like Coldzera is kind of in between. So it's kind of like you're not getting the same structure you had for Try with Bit, and you're not getting the same looseness that you had with Maluk for Malbs. And so like everybody is basically coming from drastically different playing backgrounds. And so even though it's like you might think they're all from South America, they have a similar style, it's like actually just not true. They actually just played on they're basically playing different games than each other. Like, and it took them a long time, or it's still taking them a while apparently to actually find cohesion. That's what he more or less told me.
useful context. It definitely colors the way that some of their players that we were all excited for have not exactly hit the ground running so far. So it kind of shades that in. I was mostly hyped for, obviously Malbs was a pretty stellar player on his own right back in his Team One days. But for me, I was really excited to see Try some more, especially after they ejected Zywoo and company back in like the old French days, like that. When somebody does that and it's mostly off of the back of it was a team effort, but he really stood out in that game for me. Obviously a long time ago, details are a bit fuzzy, but I remember thinking like this guy's pretty legit. He could certainly give him enough adaptation time. He seems like somebody who would translate pretty well at Tier 1. So if it's something like this, it makes sense that it would be more system oriented as far as why he's not going up to the bat and cracking it out of the park, so to speak.
Do we want to breeze through the Asia minor quickly?
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's move on to the Asia minor. So this one's quick. Okay. I mean, the biggest surprise was definitely IHC. I mean, that they kind of came out of nowhere for me. I even talking to Nine before they started the event, they basically had no expectations because they knew that Renegades and Tyloo are such heavy favorites that it'd be cool if they even took a map or something like that. That's not actually word for word what he said, but it was not like the vibe I was getting from him was more like we're just like we made it here, good for us. If we do any damage, then like we'll be very pleasantly surprised. Did you guys like see much of IHC versus these teams?
I saw them. No, I saw a little bit of IHC, and really, what struck me was that they weren't as. So Asian CS has a reputation for if the game is serious, and serious is in big air quotes here because it's usually like Chinese teams have a penchant for not being serious. Sometimes we'll say so in the game, but the stakes are high. At the RMRs. They can turn it on, but in a way that might feel like ridiculously relentless. They're like this in a number of esports games. I actually don't know what's in the water over there, but they'll end up going pretty ham in some cases and catching teams off guard, or just generally bringing something that's weird. And IHC felt a little bit more normal to my European CS field sensibilities.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that for me, when I'm looking at this team, I'm thinking, okay, well, they might be surprised if they can do damage, but what might catch them off guard or people off guard is that maybe they're not like. Paradoxically, they're supposed to be easier to adapt to if they're similar enough to your style. But the fact that they know enough about European CS or the same style, I think they'll mesh well enough. Like there's enough different, but enough is the same that it's not going to be a total wash, I think. So they will be dangerous a little bit.
Interesting tidbit on that, because I remember scrimming, not the same team, but I remember scrimming the Mongols when I was on Nordivan still, and they were playing with like 100 ping or something. So I don't know if they were playing from there or like where they were playing from. But like I know at least the Mongols had experience like actively scrimming in Europe. I don't know what IHG's been doing, but it seems like it's maybe a bit easier for those teams. And obviously, if they have like one team that was consistently scrimming in Europe and Mongols, maybe they've taken some things from playing them.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that maybe that like region just in general is playing more of like closer to EU than a lot of the other Asian regions.
They told me that they actually do try to scrim European teams regularly, and they have like 100 ping and stuff. This was actually pretty funny that I actually, when I talked to Nine the very first time, I didn't actually fuck it. I didn't really know who he was. But then he talked to me and was like, "Oh, we actually played you in a pug the other like a while back, and you dropped 30 kills on us." And I was like, "Oh yeah, like they all queue Face It Europe with 100 ping, and they actually like ran strats at us for the first handful of rounds." And I no joke all chatted to them like, "Come on guys, like you're throwing fucking like roof flashes on Nuke against us. Like this isn't really fun." Like, like, and then I think they kind of calmed down and played a little bit puggier, but he remembered that I dropped 30 kills against him, and I was like, "Holy shit, I can't believe you remember that." So that was
I can't believe you remembered one of my best moments against a professional team that's going into a major. Man, oh man, I can't believe you remember that. Did I mention I was wearing a big jersey when that was happening? I can't believe it.
It was all of them, but instead of their fifth score, it was Bart 4K, who was like their substitute that they actually brought to the event. But it was 4 of their 5 players plus their sub, and they were actually basically nuke scrimming us. And it was like a few of us like Pimp, Harry, Hugo, myself. Like it's funny. It's funny, but yeah, they actually had to. That's like the fun, or that's the interesting adversity with IHC is that they had to overcome the fact that when they were scrimming European teams, or even just literally queuing Face It Free, Europe, they actually just kept doing it with 100 ping, and I almost feel like that gives them a little bit of like a land buff. So like going from 100 ping to 0 ping is insane. Like you just feel like
huge, yeah.
all these mechanics.
As long as they're not like taking advantage of like the 100 ping swings too much, you know what I mean? Like if they're playing like normally and just like, okay, we have 100 ping, we know when we go to land, like this shit's gonna play out like so much differently for us.
Yeah, well, the other thing too is, you can't actually, if you take advantage of it too much, you become too used to it, and then it actually hurts you, I think, more. Yeah. That's my hypothesis. Never played on a LAN, FY.
I don't remember them, at least I don't remember Mongols doing anything too crazy when they were playing on 100 ping, so.
Yeah.
These games were all at like 2 a.m. for me, so I didn't even get to catch any of them, so I only have like
there's no
stuff
shame
that
in that.
everybody else has said about them.
There's no shame in
that. I'm really excited to see IHC against like all these other teams though, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say a few words on Renegades if you don't mind. I think Renegades are a team that, in similar ways, I think these guys are, even though they don't come in as like the top seed from Asia or whatever, I still think that these guys could do it. Like they're almost like everything we said about IHC in that they have a little bit of a different play style. They can turn up the aggression, but they still play somewhat tactically or somewhat akin to European CS. I think the same can be said, but turned up a little bit for Renegades. Like they're almost like a more complete team. Maybe this will work against them because if you're playing like the global meta against people who are just better than you at the global meta, you're probably going to get shut out and it might not even necessarily look close. But I actually have faith that these guys will take at least a game in, the early stages of this, right? So especially given the ropey nature of most of the like initial phases of these majors, I would expect a couple of upsets to go the way of some of these Asian representatives. So I don't know if any of them will proceed to the next stage, but if I had to bet on one of them, I would probably bet Renegades.
I mean, I think that's the safest assumption, that even though IHC won versus Renegades, it's just like Renegades is more used to playing against EU opposition. I actually talked to Liaz a little bit about it, and he kind of talked about how IHC did play a little bit more of a European brand. So yeah, I mean, this all just confirms what you were saying for No-Go too. So okay, I think all right, let's do it. Let's move on to Europe. Let's move on to the EU side of things. We have two teams that qualified for Legends already. I love one of them. I actually kind of like both. I like a few of the players on Heroic a lot. I'll just say that. Like I'm a big Shush and Refresh fan. Like I'm a big fan of them dudes. But let's go with Heroic's first. Heroic's journey first. So they beat Forza, they beat Fnatic, and then they 2-1 NaVi. And I thought I watched that NaVi game was freaking sick. Like, so intense. So many great clutches, really good moments. And but I want to put this out there. Do you guys think like how good do you think NaVi is right now?
Ooh, I think I went from watching the Nuke game specifically. I think the normal pizzazz, for lack of a better term, that Boomich has with his mid rounds, especially on CT side where they're supposed to be super famous for defending, felt totally anemic to me. And even the mid rounds that he did make were like mostly reactionary. The few that he did as like something that was supposed to be a read were totally wrong. Like there's the example of them completely stacking the A site and then having to retake in a disadvantaged situation against B. They gave up so many rounds where it wasn't even like they necessarily successfully saved either on CT side. So it wasn't even like they put themselves in a position where they can choose to do the higher percentage play but give up the round. They gave up the round but only had one or two players surviving, so we usually won. So that's obviously horrible for the economy, and that's why I think Heroic was able to run away with it on T side. But at the same time, like it's hard for me to know because obviously with the global circumstances, the fate of NaVi is still in the balance. We're seeing stuff on the front page of the subreddit all the time about how this might be the last event for Perfecto or for, some of these other players. And it would obviously break all of our hearts to see this roster disband or in some ways change before it was really meant to, in air quotes. But with all that uncertainty that we have, I don't know that they necessarily know that much more about it, right? They're still also glued to the news waiting for stuff, I imagine. So I just hope they can keep their clear heads ahead of this next match, get to the major.
Just to point out that the Reddit thread was the whatever website that came from was completely conjecture, and
it had like one new quote in it or something compared to previous reporting, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and it was not even like it was just taking stuff that was stated publicly and trying to like phrase it as if it was a sure thing, and basically saying that like the Russian players wouldn't show up or would like might be playing their last event, and it was just entirely conjecture. The title was completely clickbait, unfortunately.
But it still starts the conversation in people's heads, and that spurs everything on.
It should be a conversation, though. Like in general, obviously, it has to be a part of the topic, given like what's happening in Ukraine and Russia. But like I would say, to answer your original question, Alex, I'd say that NaVi are probably like 70% of the level that they were at the end of the year last year. That's sort of where I would put them at, and that's with the way that a lot of other teams have elevated right now. That's not going to be enough to win them the major at this point. They'll still qualify, I think, but it's just like I don't know how deep of a run they can make at this point. Just if they continue playing at that level,
right? I mean, I said this on, I don't know if it was this show or another show, whatever. Either way, one thing I kind of like really didn't love though about NaVi when they made their Grand Slam crazy ass run is that like the form that Bit and Perfecto were in as individuals, like it was just too high. Like they were just too good. You know, they really just aren't. I don't really actually buy that they are that good. Like I don't think like Bit has the best, like I don't think his game sense is there that he should be putting up the numbers that he's putting up consistently. And then once his individual form drops off even a tad, then sometimes the little plays or the multi-frags he got away with before, like on Overpass A, man, or like sometimes the way he just would get kills in bathrooms, it's like, dude, this is just ridiculous. And like there's nothing anybody can do about it because he'll just headshot so fast. Like that's just dumb. Like it's just like when you talk about sustainability in Counter-Strike, like the last thing you really think about is individual prowess. And I think Bits was just way too high. And I think Perfecto's to an extent was like a little bit, it looked more sustainable. Like he used utility and timings a lot better than Bit did. But Bit's individual level was not something that I saw he could carry forward. Global situation or not, even if there is one, I mean, because there is one, obviously, so he's gonna drop in performance. But in some ways, I thought this was like inevitable that he was not gonna be this good always.
You think Simple needs to tell him to aim high again, and then it'll all be fixed?
Yeah, just say that.
It's just what you're talking about with the overpass bits. There's clips of like, oh, what it's like to play against Bit on NaVi, and then there's just him and Divider on overpass peeking like. And double headshotting three people with an M4 with perfectly timed peaks, like instant double headshots. He peeks left side, goes back. Someone's pre-aiming his exact peak. He peeks and instantly double headshot. Like it's sick. It looks sick, but that's not sustainable at all. No. Especially when you have 4 people staring at that exact spot that you're peeking from. Like it's just never gonna happen all the time.
Right.
And to Navi's like point, they're not playing as a whole to the same level they were. Yeah. So when Bit's trying to make those same plays, and even if he's only going 1-for-1, it's not even close to enough on like in such a high impact position like that. When the rest of the team's sort of like playing at 70% of their own level too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. We have to talk about my favorites. Big.
Of course we do.
We have to talk about them. I mean, they made it. It's shameless, but it's also like, dude,
it's deserved. It's deserved.
They deserve this. Okay.
For sure.
So the game against FaZe was just so close, and in a lot of ways, very fortunate for them. Like individual form was very high for Big in this one. I will say that. And I will say, like, Brokey's form did not look like Brokey's form, Twist form. Like, there were moments where I just saw those players performing worse than I'm used to. And so it was, in a sense, very cool to see Big. Okay, I'll say this. The Dust 2 win that Big got against FaZe was super legit. Like, they put together 100%. Some really sick rounds, like, really, really good ones. The Mirage win was a little bit fluky in my eyes. Like
the Mirage win was FaZe capitulating in a lot of rounds for me.
Yeah,
agreed.
Like, watching both, Big gets massive credit to how they played in both maps, especially Dust 2. But Mirage, just with some of the whiffs and the plays that FaZe were making, like on a good day, FaZe will 100% win that map, like 16-10, 16-11, the way that like with some of the rounds that they played. Like even on the 14-14 round where
oh my god,
that was the most depressing round to watch in a long time, dude. Like Kerrigan goes 1-for-1 against Glocks and Deagles, and then Twist gets like 1 and gets smoked off site, ends up being in the 2v2. Everybody else coming out of market gets like max 1 kill, if that. It's just depressing to watch that round. And, like, I saw them start out on Glocks and I saw them going B, and I was like, oh no, FaZe are somehow gonna either like this is gonna be like a 1v1 or FaZe are gonna lose it. And sure enough.
The Deagle stuff is messy. I've listened to some of these FaZe comm videos Kerrigan puts out on his YouTube channel. Great content. And, it's distant enough from the previous event or the event that they're in now that it feels like it probably isn't leaking too much. But we get really nice insights anyway, and I'm sure they're selective with whatever they cut out or whatever. But what gets me is that, like, they are talking a lot sometimes, right? And in those pressure moments, especially if you have those noise canceling fucking aeroplane helicopter stuff that you got going on, I'm not sure if they do in this studio event, but whenever that is in the case, it's going to be really hard to hear some fine details like an unarmored Deagle player jumping out of a window and flanking you and then shooting both of you with with headshots. Shout out Tabson for that play that gave him 15 rounds on basically an eco, like ridiculous. So if that is going to happen to you, like, I don't know, man. I don't know if you can really blame the comms, but it does feel like they get flustered sometimes, and it's just usually they're able to correct, and that's how they've won the last 2 events. I didn't see that phase here. That's definitely true. And I do have to wonder sometimes about whether, like, whenever an upset like this happens, Big is probably, within spitting distance of the top 5 at this point, which is, of course, a bold prediction, Mauisnake said, right? And I just mean in terms of rankings, not in an absolute sense. They're probably within distance of achieving that, especially off of taking number 1 2-0 in 2-0 fashion. That's pretty crazy. So, as a result of that, I'm sure they'll be shooting up in the ranks. But this feels almost like FaZe just played their own game or practiced their own game and maybe didn't anti-strat enough. At the same time, it has been a while since I've seen Big, so maybe that also contributed to it. Big, nothing to take credit away from them, but it definitely felt like maybe this wasn't the most prepared you could ever gotten. They took advantage. That's a legend spot for Big. That's crazy.
Mix, you want to add anything about FaZe or Big or Heroic or Navi?
I'll just say on Big, I kind of just agree that in terms of like where they are, probably like around the same range of like where like Outsiders or Astralis, Vitality, those teams would be. Maybe like even Ents. It's probably like a good team that just had like a really good run. And yeah, obviously I don't think Big is like in contention to like win a fucking event anytime soon or anything. It seemed like a bit of an overperformance, but it also seemed like they are generally improving. Even at like EPL where they went like 2 and 3, like they didn't look that great, but I still like overall they didn't look like terrible either. You know what I mean? Like, there seemed like to be some like sort of foundation building block there. Some of the maps that I saw some of the maps that I saw at EPL. So yeah, just awesome from Big to fucking 3-0 and beat FaZe, but obviously I would say like a bit of an overperformance for this event.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. Like I'm sipping on the Big Kool-Aid, but I'm also like doing it with a hole in my straw, like I'm doing okay. So
okay, so you're just getting a little bit of the taste, is that it?
Yeah, just like a little taste here and there, a little lick, like a cat licking a bowl of milk.
Okay,
just like a little bit here.
Just
and there.
like a cat.
No, I mean, when I'm on a real broadcast, I'm gonna have to prop this shit up like crazy. But like with this one, I'm gonna be real. Like this, it's an overperformance. I mean, I think I already characterized it. The Mirage game did not feel like they should have been taking that. Although I will say one thing about the Mirage game is that like Surson played uncharacteristically bad. And then what was cool about the victory is that his team still succeeded despite him. And I think that's like Pimp even said on the desk before, he's like, this is super FaZe favored, but there's like no chance in hell if Surson doesn't do well that they win. And I kind of was like, I mean, that's a fair point because like he's supposed to be.
But you got the big Crimbo performance.
Yeah, I was gonna say like massive credit to Crimbo in this series too.
Yes, yeah.
Like some of the rounds he won clutch, like the clutches he won, some of the late rounds he won.
Yep.
incredibly well done.
And also a lot of composure from the clutches. I can't remember if it was Crimbo or Faven who had that like last second diffuse where like not even a second of hesitation as he gets the last kill, runs to the diffuse. In my head and to the casters, they're like it felt like they were about to say there's no time though. It's going to be close. He's probably not got it, but he gets the kit anyway and he grabs it. That was crazy. That was a great moment.
I was going to say like just on FaZe, like I do think these like little shakes of form that they show every now and then is like going to come back to bite them eventually at like an important moment. Like they've won their last 2 events. Like my prediction would be like they go to the major and they lose in like quarters or semis to like a team that they're probably supposed to beat.
Like a Heroic? Would you think they would lose to Heroic?
Heroic on stage, probably not.
Okay. Yeah.
Wait, are you saying quarters or semis of the playoffs? You saying that they're going to get that?
Yeah, of the playoffs.
Okay.
Like FaZe will go to like the quarters or semis, and like I think most people would expect them to be in the finals, contending to win.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that like these little shakes of form that like they just kind of like dip. Like this loss to Big. There's been like some other times. I think there's like at least like one kind of like bad loss in Pro League. I don't know. It can come back to bite you. Like they're not like a super steady number one. That's kind of like my point, I'd say. And I think it's gonna that inconsistency is gonna come back to bite them at the major.
I just feel like in that Mirage match, Rops had such little impact on T side for FaZe. Like there were so many rounds where he was like hard lurking and he would either get held for by Big or he would just like be way too late to make a play.
Dude, he was late a lot today on Dust 2.
He was late a lot, yeah. And like he made up for a little on CT side, even with similar plays, but like for me, that was part of the reason why they were down so much early on is because like a lot of rounds where Rops could have had a much larger impact, he was making such late round plays that it was basically over by the time he actually made it to try and help out. Like you see at the end of the game that Rops has 25 kills, but can you remember any of them?
I remember a Crimbo clutch, you know.
Remember the rounds that kind of annoyed me the most with Rops' impact and like was kind of like uncharacteristic Rops plays where basically he was holding a ramp and Big would just double push into him and he'd get 2 kills. And
exactly.
Like that's the most impact I saw him have in any of the rounds. Like it wasn't.
And he did it like 2 or 3 times too.
Yeah. I think he did it twice. I think he did it twice, like a double kill from ramp, just holding for pushes essentially. So like those were round winning holds, but they're just like they're literally just based off of aim and mechanics. Like they're not actually like that wasn't like he made a big brain play that actually you're kind of used to seeing Rops do like a cool late round clutch kind of thing.
Every time he was prediction.
About to. Go for it. What's your hot pred?
My really hot take specific prediction is that FaZe and Furia are going to meet in the playoffs at the major, and Furia is going to win.
Oh, I like that a lot. I like that one because you can't.
Maybe it's a rematch too, because obviously they played over an EPL, right? So.
Yeah. It's they had a couple close matches.
Yeah, it's a cool pred also because like you can choose. You can like if the bracket just doesn't draw it, you just never wrong. So
yeah, I just love them wrong. They just
he did say they would be
right, guys.
It's one of those things that you look like a savant if it happens, and then if it doesn't, no one will ever remember.
Yeah, exactly.
If it happens, I get to clip this and get like 5K likes on Twitter. So it's great.
Yeah.
Mostly from Brazilian flags, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm writing the same thing with Big right now. So yeah, like just throw out your hot preds. You know, like how about we actually move to preds? So we actually have all of the upcoming round matchups. Let's just actually. Yeah, let's talk about the 2-1 matchups because those actually will in turn predict who we think is going to make it to the major. And then after that, we'll just do Patreon questions, okay?
Are we not doing RMR B at all?
Probably better to just recap.
Why not?
Oh, okay.
Why?
This is for the predictions if we want, by the way.
Okay. Let's see how fast we get through these. Okay, FaZe Maus. I think we're all taking FaZe.
Yeah, I 100% am taking FaZe there.
Okay, we're taking FaZe.
Okay. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, okay. How about Saw Forza?
I'll take Saw on this one, just because it's funnier the longer they stay in the tournament that I keep getting casters to say, and we've seen Saw do this before, and Just and Stado. I don't even know if these players are still on the lineup.
So,
but I've just seen Saw just play the clutch.
It's so frustrating with his name being that. Yeah, that's just the worst.
I'll take Forza because I believe in Jerry.
I think Forza is better. I think Forza is better too.
Forza probably is better, but I still vote Saw. So if it happens, I'm epic.
Yeah. Mix, what are you taking?
I don't really know that much about either team. I'll take Forza.
Yeah, okay. Navitality.
It's got to be NaVi.
Vitality.
I think even with the form, it's got to be NaVi.
Yeah. It's
I'm
hard
going for it, man. I'm saying Vitality.
Yeah,
I like it.
I'm leaning a bit more towards the Vitality here because of the stuff I saw from Boomich. I didn't see any Vitality games, so any horrible mistakes they made, I just didn't notice. And so but I did see the NaVi loss on Nuke, and it looked pretty bad. So maybe it was just tilts. Maybe they'll shake it off. I don't know.
I've got that like gut feeling bias,
Yeah.
so I'm just gonna go Vitality.
I kind of am. I kind of am with you on that.
I just think Navi's style will counter Vitality's like weird blend of Danish French CS that they're still working on, like kind of fusing together right now. I think it's just going to be like a little bit too much, even with Boomich kind of calling some weird rounds. It'll take them over the line.
Yeah. I'm gonna stick with Navi. I'm not gonna get too crazy. I already made my big Pred. I can't just be super crazy, man.
Okay.
Okay, so then we think more or less, let's just say it's like this. We think Forza, Navi, FaZe make it through. Let's just for majority's sake on these things.
Yeah.
So then
yeah, so, fuck you guys for
Vitality.
Everybody on the right side of the broadcast does. Let me just hide here, and then the majority
because we're taking the odds as a factor, as a fifth.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Split them
just
out.
Ask the chat to donate.
We're taking the fact that it's Alex's goddamn podcast.
Sure. That's
okay. Navi Vitality.
So. Yes. But okay, so the question though remains. Okay, and this will basically be my last question for 4 teams here. Is do we of these 4, who do we think is going to make it? Vitality, Maus, OG, Outsiders. So those 4.
How many can make it?
I mean, so here's the thing. So if we actually do the matchups, if we say Outsiders win, OG win, the big question is whether fnatic or Eternal Fire win the next round, because that changes the matchups for the following round entirely.
Okay.
So if fnatic win, then you have Saw versus Maus, OG versus fnatic, Vitality versus Outsiders.
Okay.
And then if Eternal Fire win, you have Vitality, Maus, OG, Eternal Fire, Saw, Outsiders.
That's too crazy.
So it's literally like massive difference.
Yeah, that game is like a 50-50 game.
Yeah, that's
a lot. I'll just screenshot the matches so that you guys can see them.
Sure.
If you're not using the site already.
Yeah. Okay. So
that's if fnatic win, those are the matches, and then if Eternal Fire win, those are the matches.
Okay. So, oh my god!
So dude, there's a chance that only one of Vitality Outsiders.
If it's Vitality Outsiders, I'm gonna be kind of upset. I'm gonna be pretty upset about that. I think that basically I'm gonna go off your second one, and I'm just gonna say that I think Vitality OG Outsiders win.
Dude, Mouse is begging for a fucking fnatic win tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mouse plays Saw or Vitality, depending on that.
Yeah. That would be insane.
Well, so the second one is if Eternal Fire win.
Yeah.
So Mouse probably really want fnatic winning.
Yeah, they really want fnatic to win.
Okay. So I'll just put it out there, I guess, based off of I'll just say Vitality OG Outsiders. I think that's my
I take OG Mouse Outsiders actually. I think there's a chance Vitality.
You think Mouse beat out Vitality?
They already did once, so what's stopping them?
I think they do. I think in the second matchup, I would take Mouse OG Outsiders, and in the first matchup, I would still take Mouse OG and Outsiders.
Dude, imagine Vitality not making it to the major. Imagine that.
That would be.
Hey, they have 2 years apparently.
That'd be really shameful. That'd be really, really sad.
Just with the talent on display. Forget about how they
see them beating NaVi and also not even making the major. So
yeah,
see how it goes.
Yeah, we're over here trying to remember which point we argued for. Well, I don't know. That's rough. We've gotten very in the weeds with the specific outcomes or whatever. But as far as the matchups, I think of the teams you listed, I do think that I feel like Vitality have to at least make it to the qualifier stage, or what used to be the qualifier. So I'll say that they definitely have to.
They just have to, man. They just have to.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift over to B. Let's shift over to B, and let's do pretty quick Preds here. 8 teams. I'll throw out what I would say are the heavy favorites, and then we can move from there. So the heavy favorites
for RMR B.
For RMR B, yeah. For RMR B, the heavy favorites in my eyes are G2, Players, and NIP. I would probably even put ENCE there. I put ENCE as my fourth.
Fair.
And so who do you guys think are the 4 remaining teams? I'd say the big ones are probably Entropic, Copenhagen Flames, Astralis. That's probably my next 3, but I don't know. I think this one's a little bit more top heavy, but I'm not really sure. Yeah.
It feels way more top heavy looking at this. I mean, I'm looking at Sinners, but they don't even have Oscar anymore, do they?
No, I don't think Sinners make it, honestly.
Yeah, they wouldn't. I actually think Heat would be a better shout. I don't know what's going on with Team Spirit ever since they sort of collapsed at the last major either, so they feel like they're almost dead in the water.
It's between Heat and like
Sprout.
I don't remember what my it's like Heat, Sprout, or Bad News Eagles will be like an upset team that take the final spot, I think.
Yeah, Bad News Eagles are kind of underrated in that respect. Like nobody even knows this team, and mostly me included. But I've seen enough content to know that they might actually do some damage. They have like the classic EU FPL like god of pugs on their team, like a couple of players that would fit that bill. So
Juan Flatcher and Regon, yeah.
I could definitely see Bad News Eagles making it in this spot.
That'd be sick. That'd be pretty sick, actually.
Yeah.
We do have a question in chat that I want to highlight, which is somebody asking about any news about Nip Device. Is he coming back? And dude, I don't know I don't know what's public, but like the fact that we don't know publicly as like just the average fan is pretty ridiculous by now.
I would assume he's not in that case.
Because we haven't heard anything.
So they could literally move him in whenever they feel like it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because Brolin's playing for sure, right?
Yeah, Brolin's listed as one of the
Who the fuck's gonna op if like
S-Attack with his wall bangs?
The homie.
He fucking memorized like 17 wall bangs on every map.
Listen, he was a decent offer. Please don't put him on the off. That's gonna give me PTSD if I tune into the game and I see that.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Clouds in pajamas.
I don't want to see that either, but Rez has like always been a solid secondary, but like he's rifling at a very high level.
Yeah, he's rifling really well right now. Surely they don't do that.
I would hope
he's finally hitting his form.
Just put Plopsky on it, see what happens.
Yeah, just see what happens.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know. I honestly feel like even the top teams that you listed here, you said G2, Players, Nip were your top, Maui. I feel like all 3 of those have like the chance to just get pranked in this event. I don't know. This seems super like compared to the other one where it's like, oh yeah, of course, Navi and FaZe. Like, no man, I don't know. I actually don't know if any of these teams are stable. Like the teams that should make it for sure, like the 3 teams we just listed, they probably don't go flawless. I feel like maybe none of them do.
I think they can't all 3 go flawless.
Well, no. Yeah, I'm saying I feel like none of them. I don't even know if it's statistically likely that none of them go 3-0. But what I mean is like, I feel like they all lose a match.
So there are the first round matchups already available.
Okay.
I don't see any favorites like in the top 3 G2 players or NIP losing theirs because
that's true.
G2 Anonymous, Players Sangol, NIP and Endpoint. So I feel like that's just and End Spirit. I feel like Ends just win that too.
Yeah, that is fair. Yeah. So
Wait,
actually, what if we take this, then the next round matchup is Players Ents, which actually could go either way here. Like. Players are obviously on a downturn, mostly due to global events, but also because we still don't know how online they are or aren't. And then, obviously, Ents are on the come up. So I feel like that's a match made in heaven for people who want international European teams to have a shot at claiming the major. So
keep in mind that's a best of 1, too. So.
Oh, yeah, even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say something, but now I totally forgot, so ignore me.
I think
I was just gonna say, watch out for this Sprout Copenhagen Flames game. I think there's upset potential there.
Yeah. Sprout's been playing a little better, I think. Right?
I feel like those teams are basically the same, even though not obviously they're very different. I'm talking about like I feel like these 2 teams are very evenly matched. You know.
Okay.
Like I feel like this is a coin flip game, especially that it's best of 1. But that doesn't mean it'll even be close because that's the nature of best of 1s. You know.
The other thing to keep in mind for this RMR group is that there's 3 legend spots instead of 4 as well. So only the top 3 teams make legends directly.
Is that why this group has seeded lower ranked teams or whatever?
Oh, that's really interesting, actually.
So there's the top 2 teams that go 3-0 make legends, and then there's a 3rd place decider. So it's similar to like Group A where there's the decider, but I think the 3rd and 4th teams, and so the 5th team is decided by Bushels, and then the 3rd and 4th teams by Bushels play a 3rd place decider, or like the other 2 3-1 teams or whatever.
Okay, so interesting. You guys ready to move on to the Patreon questions?
Yeah,
let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. So we have a nice backlog here because we haven't done a show for a while. We have 5 questions, and tell me, you got it? You got it ready?
Yeah, in the same order I wrote them, so good to go.
So first one is firsoch, longtime supporter. Mart, yeah, okay, I don't even have to say the day he submitted this. Who do you think is the current best NA player, and how big do you think the gap between them and the next best NA player is?
I think it's very close between NAF and Elige. And then I think there's like a pretty good drop off.
Wow, you don't think Twist is that close?
Twist? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I always forget about Twist because he's not in the NA
team. I was so confused.
Yes, Twist is also there.
Okay. Yes. I think Twist is head and shoulders above everybody else. But it's not just because his team is playing well. It's because Elige and NAF are... I guess they are pretty instrumental in the wins that Liquid has, but Liquid doesn't have that many wins. So it's... I guess it could just be bias in terms of like, oh, well, this team won and that team didn't. But to me, it feels like Twist is on another level. Of course, today's performance doesn't really help argue my point, but I'll just say in general, in the last 2 tournament wins, Twist's aim has been really, really nice. And I don't know if it's him or if he's being like micromanaged or guided by Kerrigan or what, but he's just, the way that he's pathed around the map is like, man, if this was an RTS, he'd be my best unit. You know what I mean? So...
I don't think he's being micromanaged very much from interviews and from
those
like,
voice comm
videos
too,
and whatnot. In order, I would say it's probably like Elige and Twist that are very close. Elige just narrowly above, and then like NAF below that, and then maybe Floppy below him.
Oh yeah, I like that. I like that little shout out to Floppy because I'd probably put OC and Floppy actually on the same.
Oh, OC too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
OC Floppy. Not over.
I'd say the tier 1 is. Yeah, I think Elige Twist. Some days I feel like NAF's better than Elige.
I'd still put like NAF in the same tier as them. Like, NAF is just so consistently there. Like, Elige has like been better like very recently. I think he's been like having like an uptick in form from like his little slump. But like NAF is just always just there, like 1.18. Like he just never like his form just never seems to dip really.
Yeah, exactly. I would put tier 1, Elige, NAF, Twist. Tier 2, Floppy, OC. Tier 3, Automatic, Fang. I don't know who else, honestly. Maybe, that's probably it, honestly. Tier 4, everybody else that's on Liquid or Complexity, sorry. Yeah. Okay, next question. Let's go on. EasyPete asks, is there a silver lining for Fnatic?
Alternatively, this is dated March 9th, by the way, so keep in mind.
Yeah, okay. That's alternatively,
since this might just be covered as a regular topic, what kind of player is Bemis? Can he be enough for Maus? The silver lining for Fnatic, I think we're gonna move past that because I'll say this. I'll answer that part. I think right now we're seeing that the core of Mezzi and Alex is solid, but they just need like real pieces around it. Poison could be one of those pieces. But I don't know what the other 2 are right now.
I still saw Poison missing some easy as fuck shots, I swear, at this event. And
today?
I think it was like yesterday.
Okay, yesterday? That would have been against like Heroic, right, though? But
I think it was against Heroic, doesn't mean much. Still.
Like
it wasn't the opponent, it was just the shots that he was missing that really just put me off.
I'm not huge on Poison, to be honest, I will say. Like, there's a lot of other op talent that the team like Fnatic could look to that has more potential.
Yeah.
The silver lining is that when Fnatic bomb out of every event that they go to from now on, Alex won't be blamed because this time it's the management's fault. That's the silver lining, I think.
It's actually, I think, like the Swedish kind of like ousting of every. I don't know. There's like inner turmoil with this team, obviously. So I don't know if there's a silver lining.
I just never understand the direction they're actually going. It's like I think like the core of like Crims, Alex, and Mezzi is pretty solid, and then it's just like I don't really understand like the direction they ever really go.
Okay.
Do we want to cover the second part of it? What kind of player is Bemis?
Bemis has been lurking for Maus, and he's basically taking a lot of ROP spots. And I just feel like he's just kind of copying what ROPs used to do or does still. Like honestly. When he's on your team for long enough, you probably are just going to pick up some of the traits and attributes that he has. So I think he's actually been playing quite well. But I also think Bemis is a little more selfless than Rops. So that could be. I like that personally. But also, can he be enough for Maus? I don't know that. What do you guys think? Can he be enough for Maus?
It's hard to say.
Depends on what you're looking for. Like, can they?
Can he be the star with Frozen? If they're two the stars, what's their? Actually, I'll rephrase this question. If those two guys are the stars, what's their ceiling?
Like top 5.
I would
think
say
they could get top 5 with Frozen and Rops?
Top 10.
I mean Frozen and Bemis.
Like number 5 max is what I mean.
Like for Ences, I could see a run like that.
Yeah. I don't think they could consistently make it, though, actually.
Yeah.
I guess ceiling, I mean, ceiling or floor. Ceiling, like, number 5, I would say. Floor, probably, like, 10.
How low can we go for floor? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, like, floor just being, like, their average.
Yeah,
sorry.
okay.
Like,
Okay,
their
average,
like, 10.
Yeah, I would say 10.
5.
I would say 10 if they both play really well.
I'd put, like, 12 as their average. If they're the two best players, then... That also, well, I kind of made it a weird question, actually.
It's just like
the main thing is I don't like about Maus still is just I don't like, and he's probably in the room next door. I don't like Dexter's calling that much. Like,
say it louder.
guys. Yeah, so I don't really I don't know how good they can be with this type of structure personally.
Yeah.
So
I would say that is fair criticism, and Dexter should definitely not wait outside your door with a shoe full of alcohol.
Well, yeah, sure.
Good timing.
Okay. Next team. SpruceMoose. What team has the strongest star player trio? He asked this in March 25th, so that actually was after Phase 1 something. So kind of tempts you to say Phase.
Yep.
Because they won Katowice
right?
a month before that. Yeah, I think you put Brokey, Rops, and Twist there in that conversation. Yeah. I think it's just kind of almost whatever the best team is at the time, you just kind of put their 3 best players. Simple Electronic Bit would have been that. And maybe I would still put them higher because of just how much better I think Simple is than all 3 of the other players on Phase. Yeah. But and Electronic is not far from Twist or Rops at all. I think he's actually probably more valuable in terms of the team. Well, he's just as valuable maybe for Phase for Rops or something like that. But
I think Electronic has more impact in his role specifically.
Yeah.
I also think that Bit, even though Bit is not necessarily consistent, I don't think we've seen that much. We've seen pretty good play from Brokey, but it's going to be a few more events, at least one more successful premier event before I'm ready to say he's consistently turning it on against top tier opposition. Whereas the NaVi guys are all proven already, not just together, but also individually. So
I guess honorable mention to Nico Hunter Mono C as well, but we don't really know what they're
Still need time.
I was gonna say honorable mention to Hobbit Shiro Axel.
Yeah, that's good.
That's also that one reminds me more of Phase than it does of Navi's.
You know what's if this question were a little different, it would have such a crazy answer where it's who would, if you ignore the best player on the team, who has the strongest next 3? I think that's heroic or something, or maybe I think that's heroic. Yeah, because then you get Knots down, but you get Refresh, Shush, Tessus, sometimes even Cadian for one of those guys, and it's almost indistinguishable. So.
Yeah, they all do the work together basically on that team, so it's definitely an interesting, a nice little fit in for that, but. That's not the question, though. So.
Yeah, no. Okay. All right. Bill asked, a big worry with ESIC is that they are mostly funded by the TOs. People have offered other solutions with ESIC being funded by betting companies or players themselves, but I feel like they would still have significant interest in keeping conflicts low. Could another option be the viewers themselves? Obviously, this is the least likely possibility, but I feel like this would have the least conflict of interest.
The whiplash of this question, just going from strongest player, what's the strongest star player trio to? What about the funding of ESIC? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I would say this. I think it's actually in the Saudi investment fund's best interest right now, their public investment fund, to do this, because if you're putting so much money into a competitive gaming product, you want this to not have any dirt behind it and get all those skeletons out of the closet and just smash everything. Yes. So this should be up to the public investment fund.
I don't know if you want to smash everything. The problem is you would actually be smashing everything, Maui.
You'd be smashing Valorant too.
You'd be smashing a lot of Valorant.
Yeah,
that is a lot of Valorant. So
Well, I guess we'll just have to pack it up, boys. It's time to go watch Team Fortress 2, the only esport with no match fixing.
Probably does have some.
Yeah, probably does.
Every game has match fixing, but like it's just at what level does it stop, basically?
Yeah.
So I think boxing
but also
is probably
in general,
the worst.
For the question itself, like ESIC being funded by betting companies or players would be a massive conflict of interest, by the way.
Yeah.
Like that just wouldn't really make sense.
I guess the betting angle is that the betting companies don't want their bets to be like placed in bad faith, and so it's in their best interest to make sure.
Well, the problem is though, like there's like some of the NA match fixing that went on. Betting companies weren't cooperating with investigations either because like some of the players were underage, which would mean that they would like the companies could be liable, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of like different avenues that could create issues there as well. Now, I don't know if they cooperated with ESIC or not, but they definitely didn't cooperate with like some journalists who reached out.
Well, you know what that means, boys. Well. Yeah, I don't know. Somebody in chat said Valve should sponsor ESIC. I feel like the only people slower than ESIC are Valve. So I don't know about that. I mean, if they give them the money, then that would be great for the sake of making sure that we have some funding behind them, but they need to actually do something. And at this point, I don't know. I almost see ESIC as like a failed startup that's like trying to sell a product, right? And obviously this is very different, but if you take the analogy, like ESIC's product is we can clean this place up, but like, no? Question mark? So like you have to show that you can do something. Like we need a proof of concept, and they've already gotten capital and they've already had plenty of time. So I don't really know what more they would need to claim that everything is fair and that they were given a fair shout. We don't even really know what's going on with them, you know? So
they've just overpromised and underdelivered on a lot of their investigative like avenues or what they're actually looking into. Like with the original NA report was like October 2020 or something at this point, September or October 2020. So like it's been a while, and yeah, I mean, obviously, like the FBI is involved now and whatnot, so like now they won't comment on it. But again, it's just left everybody in a limbo. Like there's teams in Valorant who have just picked up match fixers, and it's like alleged match fixers, and it's like all entirely okay, and nobody cares anymore. And at this point, like when the report comes out, if it comes out, it'll be like 2 to 3 years after the fact. These teams will just be like, oh, they've like served their time, even though nothing would have happened.
That will be the ultimate slap in the face if it's like it is a 3-year ban, and here's 3 years later announcing the ban. Fuck you.
No, I still just can't see, like if those bans do come out on people, I still just can't see Riot just being like, oh, we don't care. Like
I don't think that they would do that. Yeah,
I just like there's some things with Riot that I like. Obviously, there's a lot of things with Riot that I don't fucking like. But like in terms of like how Riot operates, I just can't see them like turning a blind eye to that.
They wouldn't.
They care too much about PR over there, so yeah.
For them, it's like the whole thing is like a marketing thing, right? So for them, it's like it's not worth it. Just let these players keep playing.
Right. Yeah, if it gets out there, then it just kind of taints their whole esport. So, I think we've got enough on that one. I mean, well, did we have a real? I mean.
Oh well, the question actually asks should like the viewers or whatever fund.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, yeah, I want to answer that. Could another option be the viewers themselves? I don't really know how the viewers would pay for this. Like
unless we start going
pay-per-view model or something that siphons funds.
Wait, this is what you do. You have Glaive versus Cadian on pay-per-view, and all the funding goes to ESIC.
All proceeds go to ESIC. Yeah,
there you go.
I don't even think Cadian and Glaive want this. I don't even think they would. I mean, they would fight, but they wouldn't actually like want the proceeds to go there. They probably want.
Cadian's like, wait, ESIC? Where do I know that name before?
Yeah, actually.
Cadian right before he goes out, he's like, wait, for what?
Wait, they're gonna do more research into stuff back in the day? Okay.
Then ESIC opens up investigation on match fixing between Cadian and Blame F. Cage match.
Oh my god. Okay, we have to move on from that. That's just too. That's
fucking match gets fixed.
Okay. All right. Next slide. Nick. Next question. Nick DiGi asks, and this is the final question: how far can changing a coach alone elevate a team in the rankings? Could a team at the bottom of top 20 crack top 10 with the right coach change? Could they go further? When he says bottom of top 20, does he mean like 20th to 10th? Because I feel like that literally.
Yeah, I guess
it's like around the 20 range. So I'm just looking at like OG, Skade, Heat, Complexity.
Maybe like 18 to the 30, 18 to like 25 range, probably.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
No, but I was thinking about this question earlier when I read it. And to me, the answer is like, I don't know. It just really fucking depends on the team.
Yeah.
Like if you gave me like OG right now, right? Like that's like a team that I think has like a lot of potential to grow and like get to like the top 10. They have like Flames, like a good start tree, and like Flames, Montu, and Valde, right? And they're kind of new. They're called Nexa. Even like a team like Skade almost feels like more doable than, like a team that has like a pretty good amount of skill just from like the times that I've played them. Like a lot of skill. They're just like a really tough team to play mechanically, but like a team like Heat, where like I feel like they just played like really solid CS already, and like there wasn't like a ton of room to like improve on that. You probably are like pretty limited in terms of what you can do as a coach. So yeah, I don't know. It just depends on the team and like what they need, what the direction is. But generally, I'd say like most of the time in this game, probably not, just because you can't have the consistent impact in game as a coach.
Also, like you need the base level of talent to be able to get to like a top 10 level. It's just really difficult to just have a coach sort of do that. It's interesting though, because we might actually get a proper answer to this question, because MIBR did just change bit ahead of this RMR run. So, and I think they were ranked like 28th before. So,
okay, so
like if they come into this major and actually play well, then I don't know, maybe we get a proof of concept there, but I still don't think that they'll crack top 10 with this roster.
Yeah, it's also weird because you're asking about like the question's talking about rankings, and I assume they're referring to like the HLTV world rankings, but it's also like those don't always actually reflect how a prospective head-to-head matchup between all of those teams would go, right? So it's like based in part like how many tournaments have you played recently for points and all that. So, but I'm not sure which point of the question we're supposed to answer, but I do think that the MIBR thought experiment is tantalizing, and so if they do well at this major, it could be big, yeah.
What were you going to ask, Alex?
So with the bit and Knack thing, so like if I understand this part correctly, it was like Knack was the coach, and then Bit got brought in, right, like more recently, but they're kind of like dual coaching right now. Like, but
one is like the strategic coach and one is the head coach or something, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. A couple of teams are doing it like that too, though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was just curious about the specifics.
I think strategic coach is just like another assistant coach name, basically.
Yeah.
It's just how I feel about it.
Shit.
Let me see what it's. Oh, they put Bit as the official coach.
Yes.
As
of that's exactly what I mean.
Of the second of this month. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see right there. I guess like EG had a nice bump up when they got Zeus as the coach, but like brief. It was just really short lived. So
yeah, they had like a little resurgence. They fell off with chat, and then Zeus came in, and they had like a good run in NA, and then they kind of just ended up falling off again. Yeah. So I think it can like kind of almost give you like if one guy comes in and he just has a lot of good ideas and people listen to him, it could actually probably win you of maybe like, let me just throw out a number, like 4 BO3s in a 1 month span, which can in turn boost your rank by like 8, So that stuff matters. It just really depends on like where the team was at when you're joining. Like some teams, there's still like room to do things, and like you can kind of like hit the reset button and kind of get a lot more life out of it. Some teams you go on and it's just fucking done. Like there's nothing you can do as a coach to like save the team. You know what I mean? So it just really depends on the situation, and also like how much power you have from the org that you're joining. Like are you the coach coming in like via the org and like you have like all the control and like the players know that like they have to listen to you or they're gonna get cut, or like are you just coming in because like the players didn't like their last coach and the players still control everything? In which case, what can you really fucking do? You know what I mean?
Can I interest you in being paid in mushroom NFTs? Yeah, I'd love that.
That'd be great.
Because honestly, I have a lot of money, so yes.
What an answer.
Jokes on you for that joke.
Yes.
That has like millions of dollars.
Yeah, he's actually very rich, very well off.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that takes us to the point of the show where we can do shoutouts. Okay, so I think, who do I always do first? Is it always Pronogo? So let's do No, what's your shoutout?
You know what? I'll shout out HLTV because they're sending me to the whole major. I forgot to shout it out when I was on confirmed, but I'll be there for the challengers stage and the main major, and then I'll be in Dallas as well. So if there's any players watching this, I'll see you there.
Sick. That's cool. That's
and Maui,
cool.
I thought you were the only shameless one here, but apparently.
Yeah, I know. I just plug my own. Any TO that hires me, I'll pretty much plug them.
Oh, and follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, follow Note on Twitter,
there, obviously.
Follow Note on Twitter. I think he's verified, and he's got great tweets. Mix, what's your shout out?
Shout out Grimmin Jr. for playing well at the RMR.
Nice. True. Pernogo, what's your shout out?
Shout out PGL for the upcoming talent announcement. That's it.
Okay. All right. Shout out. I'll shout out big, because why the hell not?
Oh wow, what a surprise!
It starts with a big shout out and it ends with a big shout out. I'm gonna turn around. So I got the. Let's see how. Let me make sure I got this.
I like the squad.
You guys see this?
Stand up, a little bit more. Yeah. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, Crimbo jersey right there. Dude's a beast, Clutch King. Okay, so I actually interviewed Crimbo right after, and while we were just kind of walking to the area we were doing the interview, he kind of just looks at me and he's like, "I'm the Clutch Minister." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yes, you are. Yes, you are." I freaking loved that. But also,
every team I've been in, someone wins like one fucking 1v1. You're just like, "Is that Zipnix? Is that the Clutch Minister?" Like, it's a guy with like 1 HP.
Yeah, so shouts out to him. Shouts out to the entire big organization. I don't know if I'm gonna be like, and I see James Banks join the chat. I don't know if I'm gonna be James Banks NaVi levels of shill, but I'm gonna be. I'm definitely rooting for him a lot, and that's due to in part Crimbo, Tabson, also Christian Lenz. Yeah, handful of great guys in that org, guys that really did a lot of good actually for the Academy League in other ways behind the scenes too. So yeah, that's my shout out. That's it,
Big
guys.
Academy was like one of the first ones, wasn't it?
Huh?
Big Academy is like one of the first Academy teams. Pretty sure.
Yeah, they were around way before the
we
league.
Play.
Yeah, they had it before the league, so they knew. Fun little fact. Christian Lenz told me that there's actually this kid that's like 13 or 12 or some actually like crazy young age that's like basically the Monesi of Germany, right? Like he literally just streams all the time, and he just I think he got banned from streaming too, actually, because he was too young. But he was like literally insane. So yeah, that's someone to wait for, I guess, in 4 years.
Yeah, me the name. I'll write a one for the future article so that I can get it in before he becomes famous.
Yeah, I don't think he has any matches yet, but yeah, that's it. Shouts out to the Patreon, and shouts out to everybody also that donates via the Patreon. Be sure to submit your questions. We'll get more episodes back in. There was a long break, but I'm glad the viewership was pretty good today. Hopefully it's good on the YouTube too. Peace, guys. That's gonna be it.